Hi, Tobago! And we are live once more inside of Tobago Updates Television Studios. Welcome to 40 Hour. My name is Edison Thomas. I will be your host this afternoon. And I want to wish you a blessed and productive week. We have had another hot Monday after a very hot weekend. I hope that the public, Tobago and by extension Trinidad and Tobago, we have really been taking the precautions that were set up by the Ministry of Health. Keep hydrated, keep indoors, no strenuous activity outdoors during the sun, during the area where we have peak sunshine, that 12 to 3 period where the sun is at its peak, As soon as I walk outside in the morning, 7 o'clock, the heat is there. And from then until the sun goes down in the evening at about 6 o'clock. Even sometimes you're going home at nighttime, you still feel the heat. So I'm urging all Trinbagonians, please take the precautions, drink your water, only be outside if you have to, no strenuous activity outdoors in the elements, just like that, all right? But again, lovely, it really is a lovely weather, eh? It's a lovely weather to get some activities done in terms of construction, and usually when we're in this period, September, October, the rains come and it's very hard to get anything productive done. But we should really take advantage of the dry spell before the heavy rains do come. All right. I always take a good look on my way to studio to see what has been going on in the space of Scarborough before I walk into the studio. And when I came in, I saw the temporary cargo ship at the port, which would be the MV Emprendedora. And it reminded me, I saw earlier today that the Port Authority released that the Cabo Star, the repairs on the Cabo Star are 100% completed. And so it is scheduled to come back imminently, pending certification from the relevant authorities. All right, so we await the return of the Cabo Star, the much needed Cabo Star, all right, and we also await the measures to be put in place so that something like this in the future, that we have contingency factors to combat against, because we're seeing the effects of our lone cargo boat being out of operation for more than a month, all right? Circulating on the social media today, we saw Myers Almandos had to shut their doors because they are not able to fill their warehouses with stock, all right? And so they would have to send home staff and shut their door. They can't service the public because they don't have the stock to do so, which is very, 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 very unfortunate, all right? Was one of the biggest distributors in Tobago, so the knock-on effects of that would be massive. I am only assuming right now, but one could assume that the effects of one of the biggest distributors in Tobago not being able to supply the retailers and the public would be able to have big knock-on effects. Not only that, even me myself going to the grocery store recently, I went to the grocery store last weekend, and it was some of the products, not all, but some of the products the shelves were bare. In terms of, you went to the bread aisle, the bread aisle was completely cleared, right? I took some videos. I should have given it to the producers to show. Or when I went to the juice aisle, right? There was complete shortage of juice. There were items that I like, evaporated milk, the carnation milk that I usually buy, nowhere in sight, right? And I never had a problem getting those until this weekend, all right? So I hope that the Port Authority gets that certification sorted out in the quickest time possible so that Tobago can continue its business and the people of Tobago cannot be inconvenienced any further. And we could just continue along with our lives. And again, the contingency plan, that is also equally important, because if we don't have that, what happens is that if the Cabo Star were to go down again, we will be in the same situation. All right. So glad to hear that. Glad to hear that the Cabo Star is fixed, and we're going to get some ease up very, very, very soon. All right. But today we want to speak about, and I also want to give a shout out to the people who come up to me on the street. You know, being on this program, I think it will be a year this month, right? Hosting the program. How time has flown, right? But over the time I've been hosting the programs, person approach me, whether it be in the supermarket, whether I go to the bookstore, and they give me topics. They engage me in conversation. They give me topics. It's like, what going on about this? How come this ain't going on? How come this isn't happening? And so I want to give a big ups to the people who meet me in public and really take the time to converse with me, because again, we really get the ideas, we get the inspiration from you guys. And one of tonight's topics is coming from out of one of those conversations I had with a gentleman that I met in the grocery. All right, and so he met me up in the grocery. He said, listen, we had, what about the fire station? The fire station closed since what time? What day? Since 2019, and they said it was close to opening and all of that. And so what we had to do is that when I put it on to my producer said, well, yes, that is something the public needs to know about. And so that is something that we're going to address tonight. All right. So we have on the program tonight, Mr. David Thomas, who is the former Fire Chief Officer of the Trinidad and Tobago Fire Service. All right. So good night, Mr. Thomas. We related anyway?
Well, I would think. I mean, it's a small society, and you know those things can happen.
All right. Yes. So former Chief Fire Officer. So did you?
Former Assistant Chief.
Former Assistant Chief Fire Officer. Did you retire recently, or?
Yes, it's actually 1 year, 1 month, and 1 day since I have been retired.
All right. So around the same time I started the show.
Yes.
Right. So one door closed, another one open.
Yes, very much so.
All right. So the fire service, I always imagine the fire service is as one of the most important institutions that we have on the island, not necessarily the island only, but in Trinidad and Tobago in general. All right. Not only do you fight fires, but you tend to emergencies, catastrophes, natural disasters.
Yes.
You all do health and safety.
Yes.
Health and safety compliance and all these different things.
Inspections of buildings.
Right.
The requirements for all these new constructions and all that.
Right. And so what I wanted to ask you first, before we get into the whole situation with the fire station in Scarborough, how has your tenure been as a fire officer? Well, obviously, I know that you would have started way back when you started from as entry level, and you made your way up to Assistant Chief Fire Officer.
Yes.
Right? How has your tenure been?
Well, I have had quite a, in fact, permit me to just address the audience, good night to the viewing audience, both locally and internationally. And, you know, it's a pleasure for me to be sharing with the entire population and the world at large. My career started back in 1982 and spanned 40 years.
Okay.
So I grew up in the organization. As a matter of fact, in my very early days, they used to call me Fire Boy.
Fire Boy.
Because I was quite small, 129 pounds, just about 5'7", and you know, I really looked very small. But I had a great career. As a matter of fact, even when I look back, I feel very fulfilled. It was a magnificent period of my life. I was able to do most of what was within my nature to do in terms of serving the public of Trinidad and Tobago.
Okay.
And I am very satisfied. I feel that I would have achieved. And when I look back now, I am satisfied that I gave my best to the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Now, during your tenure, because I know recently, knowing that all the things that the fire service has to do, right? A very important service. Yeah. During your tenure, did you is it that you were successful, or did you feel fulfilled because of or in spite of? Meaning, did you always feel supported by the institution, as in you and your other officers, your other colleagues? Did you all feel supported in the ways that you wanted to do your job?
Well, it might be a combination of both. Because there are instances during my career I could say in spite of. And there are instances where I could boast about the internal support.
Okay.
Right? But all in all, the fire service would always be a place where there would be extreme challenges, and you have to be, a career person.
Right.
You have to have that passion. You have to understand the intricacies of the job, and you have to want to give, right? Because it requires you giving of yourself almost every time and all the time.
Right. Because I would think that the fire service, it's because you all respond to emergencies, right? You all always have to be on call.
Yeah.
Right? And so 24/7.
Yeah, and always at risk.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
As they say, when everybody else is running away from the risk, the fire officers are running to the risk.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
I always commend the services that we have in Tobago in terms of the emergency response that we get.
Yes.
Because not only the fire service, we also have the police, we have the team and everybody. When we see similar tragedies happen in Trinidad, the response is not so forthcoming. And in Tobago, I think that the response is way better to what we are accustomed to in Trinidad. It's top notch. Right? So I always, we get it right.
Almost all the
sometimes.
time. Yes. Yeah.
You get it right.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So going back, and I asked the question about in spite of or because of, because there are multiple, I would say, areas in which we have fire service for fire officers coming out and protesting the government. Obviously, in Tobago, it's different because we can't just go to the THA because the THA is not, it's not under the, it's not under the 5th schedule, so the THA isn't responsible. So for you guys, it would be central government.
Yes.
But we have fire officers across Trinidad and Tobago who are, from time and time again, they protest about the working condition and the resources of the fire service. So I'm asking you, leading up to your time, because you said that you would have retired last year.
Yes.
Was the contribution on behalf of the government to the fire service, was it up to par, in your opinion?
Well, I think there was quite a number of things that I felt could have been done better. I think that a lot of times you would think that the fire service is on the back burner. And a lot of times I would believe that because of the nature of the fire officers, more so I can speak for my colleagues in Tobago, we try to respond and do our best in spite of. Right? But I think from where I sit now, and where I may be able to speak a lot freer, I think the fire service needs to be the #1 organization in terms of the care of the state. Because it is a known factor that fire officers would always, once there is an occurrence, fire officers would always have to be risking their lives. And you are risking your life to present to this entire population the best level of civil defense. And therefore, from a caring perspective, if you have officers with the passion, the eagerness, the training, and the willingness to risk their lives so that the state, in terms of its safety and its protection, is well spoken of, then it is necessary to ensure that the fire officers are given the best tools and the best equipment so to effectively and efficiently carry out their functions.
Okay.
And I think that over the years, there are areas that suffered. As a result of that, the population suffered. And as a result of that, there were times of serious demotivation among fire officers.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you talk about the public sometimes bearing the brunt of
Yes.
that. So, I mean, you do have to give an examples, but do you think, in your opinion, there were situations that could have been subverted if the fire officer, if the officers would have gotten the sufficient resources and working conditions that they ought to have?
Most definitely, because we are dealing here with human beings to start with. And there are factors that would always motivate human beings. There are factors that would always demotivate human beings.
Right.
Right? And depending on the environment and the atmosphere created for these persons to function, it will definitely interfere with their ability to function efficiently. It would interfere with their motivation. And once those things become affected, then you cannot expect maximum performance. It's a human thing. Yeah.
Right. Now, I always ask myself this question, right? National security,
Yes.
usually every year, well, you have budget coming up next month,
Yes.
but usually every year, national security gets the largest or one of the largest chunks
Motion. Yes.
of the budget. Obviously, for reasons that we know the climate of the country that we live in,
Yes.
right? But where does that budget go? Is it that it goes to more of the protective forces as opposed to the emergency forces like the fire and the ambulance? What
Well,
happens there, in your opinion?
Yeah, I became very, very concerned last year after listening the entire appropriation bill when it was presented. And there were areas that were dissected to mention different entities of the national security.
Right.
And if you rerun that presentation, there was absolutely no mention of the fire service there.
Okay.
Right? And that concerned me because I am aware, I'm still aware, I'm current, even though I'm retired, I'm current. And I'm aware that there are things that can be done and should be done as a matter of priority in the fire service. Sometimes you hear the representative bodies engage in the media and speaking about all the issues that affect fire officers. It's not that they are wrong. Sometimes the presentation may not be what we'd like it to be.
Okay.
But there are situations existing. And if you look at the way these situations are treated with, you are forced to think that the fire service is not just on the back burner, it might be in the oven.
I like how you put that. Yeah. All right. So you're saying that the opinion, and well, it could be clear to most fire officers that you could see that as you say, they put the issues and the stuff that they have to, the resources and all that on the back burner.
Yeah.
All right. Is it that you all are not advocating enough? Because hear this. In terms of, I have seen fire officers kind of go through a lot, right? In terms of, the last fire station I saw built into Bay was at Roxborough.
Yes.
And before that, before you all went to move into the station, before it was completed,
yes,
you all had to do a temporary
yes
station in Argyle, inside by the waterfall.
Yes, that's right.
And because I used to work not at the fire station but close in the vicinity there.
Yes.
And I noticed every day that the fire officers came every day and choke up in that small building up there, and all the fire tenders and all the vehicles and everybody was up there, and they were just going ahead doing the business like if, it's like if it was normal. And
yeah.
It's not something that I was hearing in the public that they were in this building, So is it that you all weren't advocating enough for your issues, or do you say that it was sufficient? It's just that it was falling on deaf ears.
All right. Just to give a little history of moving to the Argyle facility. The station that we were in before was deteriorating at a rapid pace.
That's the one in Roxborough, the one on the main road.
Yes. Right? And it came at a time when it was generally felt that no attention was being paid. And there was the issues of protest action and all those things were contemplated. I being one of the senior officers in the division, I do not like things to go to the extent where you have to protest and you have to shut down operations.
Right.
Because in an environment like that, again, the public will suffer.
Correct.
Because if you cannot respond or you will not respond, then the public is at risk.
Right.
When you look at geographically, when you look at Tobago, right, there is no help coming from anywhere for the fire service in Tobago from any of the other divisions.
Right.
We are a peculiar case. But I feel a lot of times we fall into the syndrome where we are second thought from the national scale.
Right.
And it is not viewed from the perspective where Tobago can readily receive support from elsewhere, right? In Trinidad, you have North, South, and Central divisions.
Okay.
And these divisions can support each other because they are located on the same landmass.
Right. And yes.
But there is a great gulf, right, between Trinidad and Tobago.
Correct.
We speak loosely about the 22 nautical miles, but no help can come from Trinidad.
It's a hard boundary.
Anytime soon. So therefore, I would think, given that situation, you would always try to make sure that Tobago is well outfitted and can be self-sufficient, even if you have to bring manpower from Trinidad if we have a major disaster.
Right.
But I think you should start by ensuring that the island is well protected, the island is well serviced in terms of its training and its equipment, and all the issues that are likely to inhibit your actions and your responses are dealt with to ensure the public of Tobago knows and understands that they are viewed with value and pride on a national scale.
And you touch on something there that I keep harping on, especially when it comes to my Trinidad colleagues and counterparts looking at the situation going on in Tobago. The support that you all have in Trinidad, we have a hard boundary.
Yes.
And so they talk about the example about the fire tenders. If in Port of Spain there's a building on fire, you could have fire tenders coming from every single other division. Same thing with the police, same thing with the ambulance. But in Tobago, because we have this hard boundary, there is no support to come. And so there is a need for having all the resources that we should have in Tobago, because it's not as simple as catching a boat and come over in 5 minutes. All right? But on that note, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to continue the conversation with Mr. David Thomas. Stay tuned, we'll be right back.
Mount Pleasant Credit Union Back to School Loan Promotion. Loans up to 15,000. Requirements: job letter and a payslip no more than 1 month old. Utility bill, copy of book list, salary deduction, 10% down payment. For self-employed persons, evidence of income and expenditure, bank statement, 12 to 18 months. Other supporting document. Promotion ends October 18. Contact us at 639-8375 or 8108, or check us out on www.mpcutobago.com or email us at loan@mpcutobago.com. Mount Pleasant Credit Union's Back to School Loan Promotion.
Tobago, get ready to venture into the unknown. Mighty Crush Entertainment presents Dream the Phantasm. Join us on September 30th, 2023 from 11 p.m. to experience your newest reality at the Shore Park Complex, Tobago. And the best part, you can get your tickets now at Lust Restaurant and Lounge, Gulf City Lowlands, Jade Monkey Bar, Pablo's Supermarket, Barcode, Spade, Stumpy Complex Canaan, or online at WeTix.com and IslandEtickets.com. Mighty Crush Hotline 755-7874 on September 30th at the Shore Park Complex, Tobago. Dream the Phantasm.
Right now, Tobagonians are just currying down to Bonaccord, right in Stobie Local Road. You know why? To come down and shop at Authentic Builders General Hardware, the only hardware store in Tobago that is giving you guys Trinidad prices. So for instance, such as steel, 1/2 inch and 5/8, $7,895. 5/8 construction ply for $260. Every single thing that you will need to do your home renovation or start your new construction, we have it right here. And to get your quotation, it's very easy. Just WhatsApp us at 272-1990 and we will do your free WhatsApp quotation for you.
And we're back, and we're live in Tobago Updates Television Studios with 40 Hour. My name is Edison Thomas, and I am with Mr. David Thomas, who is the former Assistant Chief Fire Officer in the Trinidad and Tobago Fire Service, working for the Tobago Division. All right, so we were talking about some of the, before we went on break, that is, we were talking about some of the issues that we had internal present in the fire service in terms of getting support from the South Central government so that they have the required resources in order to do their jobs. All right? And we will continue the conversation now. I'm going to ask Mr. Thomas. So you're speaking about the last, before we went on break, we was talking about the resources. I would also assume that the state of the infrastructure that housed the fire service in Tobago would have been in need of some attention as well, all right?
Yes.
Even before you would have left or you would have retired. Can you give any insight as to what those infrastructure challenges were that you saw or that you were advocating for while you were...
All right. I think everybody is aware that there are 3 fire stations in the Tobago space. You have at Crown Point, you have Scarborough, and you have Roxborough.
Okay.
Right. We were recently given a brand new station at Roxborough, and if you peruse the history, you would realize that it took a lot of protesting, and it took a lot of representation and advocating a lot to ensure that something happened at Roxborough.
Okay.
Right? Scarborough, on the other hand, is a station that would always be under the microscope. One, because it is never a facility that could adequately house all of what happens at Scarborough Fire Station in terms of the personnel, in terms of the equipment, and in terms of all the other ancillaries.
So is Scarborough kind of supposed to be like a central command for
Right,
Tobago?
a headquarters for one
Okay,
thing. Yeah.
okay.
Right? And viewing from the external, you may not be aware that there are several ancillaries that operate. You have a water section, you have a project section, you have training, you have fire prevention, you have the ambulance section, you have the admin, several. Of course, when you look at Scarborough being the headquarters, in inverted commas, right, you would well know that the facility that we have there would not adequately provide space to accommodate all of what was mentioned.
So you're saying fire prevention, ambulance, administration, training, all of those things,
Motors, project,
all of those
engineering.
things took place in that one building.
Yes.
And up on top of that, it has to house
Yes.
fire officers
Yes.
and all of that.
Yes.
Took place in that one building.
Right.
Uptown there.
Yes.
That one small building.
Yes. Right. And beside that, the infrastructure is old.
Yes.
The fire service started up in Tobago in January of 1958. And of course, at that time, you only had 21 officers. So the space might have been adequate. But the division has since grown. And because of what was mentioned before in terms of us being self-sufficient, it was necessary to have all these ancillaries so that you could sort of take care of yourself and provide the public with all that is needed to ensure that we are an up-to-date society.
Right.
Right? So having given consideration to that and having trying to undertake setting those things in place so that the society of Tobago can benefit, it meant that the facilities that you had would have outgrown its usefulness.
Okay.
Right? Beside that, being an old infrastructure, there would have always been the challenge with electricity, air conditioning, failing of the actual infrastructure, and so on. And from time to time, you would have put stopgap measures in place to make sure that you do not have a disaster.
Okay.
But sometimes, you go as far as you could go, and whatever is impending eventually occurs. And that's what happened with Scarborough Fire Station. The electrical system failed, right? Because of the dynamics of how fire operates. It was an undetected scenario, and it escalated into a situation that,
Right. So, that would have been 2019.
2019.
Yeah, April in 2019.
April of 2019.
Right. I remember I was still working in Trinidad at that point, and I heard about the news, and I found it a little bit ironic at first, because a fire station on fire is something
it's something that
is very ironic.
Yeah.
It's like a police station getting robbed.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's not. So it looked like a clown show, basically. It was very embarrassing.
Yeah.
So you're saying that these issues that caused that fire in 2019 were known before, but they put stopgap measures on it.
Yeah.
And so what had happened was that it came a point where it just came to a combination.
Yeah.
Wow. And 35% is, I'm reading what was reported.
Yes.
35% of the station was destroyed, but I would assume that you wouldn't be able to use the entire station after a fire like that.
Because with that kind of damage and the areas that were damaged, right, is what impacted the most.
Okay.
Right, the entire dormitory area, which housed the fire officers,
Right.
was destroyed.
Fully destroyed.
Right, and I would say about 75%. But because of when a fire occurs, it's not just the physical damage that you see. the materials of which the building is constructed out of would have been subjected to heat.
Right.
Right? And at different points, depending on the degree of the heat, there's a likelihood that your infrastructure would fail.
Okay.
For instance, concrete would disintegrate at 800 degrees.
Right.
Right? Aluminium will melt at 621 degrees.
Right.
Steel would lose 2/3 of its strength at 593 degrees.
Okay.
So when you have an infrastructure that is exposed to that kind of condition, there would always be the likelihood that there would be further impending failure of the infrastructure.
So you're saying generally in the whole structure would have been compromised.
Yes.
Just because of the part of the structure
Yes.
that was subjected to
Exposed
high
to-
levels
yes,
of heat.
of heat,
Okay.
yeah.
Now, after all of that happened, right? The fire came, it destroyed. What was the response coming from the authorities, seeing as though you all were advocating before to have these problems fixed? What was the response?
Well, the response was, I would say, fear. Because you were looking at a situation where you could not house your men,
Right.
which means that you had to move into another space. The initial move was to take them into Crown Point.
Okay.
So then you went into a situation of overcrowding,
Right.
right, which would compromise everybody. And, thank God COVID didn't come that time.
Right.
Right? And I am still wondering whether the powers saw it as a priority project that needed urgent and immediate response. However, coming to the end of 2019, there was some movement. The budgets were done, the estimates were done, all the feasibility studies were done. And it was catered for in the 2019-2020 budget. There were sums of monies allocated towards the rehabilitation of Scarborough Fire Station.
Okay.
Right? The issue was to use the monies allocated to get the best job done at the time.
Okay.
There were a few stops and starts, and eventually a hard decision had to be made. That is in 2020, to make a decisive move on getting the facility back up and running.
In 2020.
In 2020.
Okay.
Right? So there was the move to look for a project manager. And, it was a project that most persons were unwilling to take.
Okay. Because of the nature of what they wanted.
And then you were not sure. A building that old, you're not sure what you're going to
Exactly.
be faced with.
Yeah.
However, after much hesitation, I reluctantly took the project.
As the assistant fire chief.
No, I wasn't that ranked then.
Oh, you weren't?
No.
Okay.
But the then assistant chief, he kept at meetings, he would ask who would be willing to take on the project.
Okay.
I eventually decided that I would take the project. Not because I knew the resources, the financial resources that were allocated would do the job. But I felt to myself, based on the network that I have in the Sebago space and by extension Trinidad, I may be able to find the skill set
Okay.
and the human resource capacity to do the project and complete the project.
Okay.
Because I knew from the onset, when I looked at what was visible at the time, that there would be much more work involved in the whole rehabilitation process.
Okay.
Right?
About what, and so I knew when we had the fire, the officers had to be relocated, and they were
Yes.
relocated to Grange,
No, Crown Point.
Crown Point at first.
Crown Point.
When did they make the move to Grange?
They made the move to Grange sometime in 2021. Because by that time, you had the pandemic, and we knew for sure that you could not have had all those persons in one space.
Okay.
So the government gave us a window, and that window caused us to be able to seek out a facility that will be able to house the men in a comfortable enough state.
Okay.
Right? And that decision was made, the facility was acquired, and the move was made.
Okay. And how do you, in your opinion, them working, because remember, you said earlier, all of the administration, all of the training, all of the
the ancillary services
has to work out of that fire
space,
station.
Yeah.
And seeing that Grange is a much smaller space,
Right.
how has that been going? Because it has been a while now.
Right. Well, what happened at that time, there were a lot of reallocation of space. Right? For instance, the water section and the project section remain on site in smaller buildings on the southern side of the compound.
Okay.
Right? The training was moved to Roxborough. Engineering was moved to Canby as well.
Okay.
Right? So a lot of, right, some bits of the administration at Scarborough was also moved to an additional facility on the compound at Canby.
Okay.
So, it was a sort of fitting, cutting and fitting and pasting, so that you at the end of the day would be able to provide a level of comfort for those persons and still maintain a degree of efficiency.
I want to ask this question before we go on break, real quick. After the fire, we had a fire in 2019.
Yes.
Roxborough Station would have been being constructed all during that time.
Yes.
Right? Was there any consideration in between, within the fire service, to have that construction stopped in order to concentrate on bringing back up the headquarters in the shortest possible time?
Right.
Was that considered?
No, it never came up.
Okay.
Right? And you were looking at two different things here. If you had stopped Roxborough, it means that you would have been exposing the entire Windward community, right, to a level of insecurity.
Okay.
And you didn't want to do that.
All right.
But in terms of our forecasted, in terms of Scarborough, when we started the construction, we were aiming at completing the entire facility in 1 year.
1 year. Okay, 1 year's time.
And work took off, and we were on schedule until the issue came to the availability of additional resources.
Okay. And I'll stop you right there.
Yeah.
When we come back, we'll continue our discussion and we'll culminate our discussion with Mr. David Thomas. Stay tuned, we'll be right back.
But this place is boring enough. We don't even do nothing. Let me go somewhere now.
I really want some new things, yes?
Then look no further. Portmore is the place for you.
Oh, really?
Yes.
You can have anything that your heart desires. Take a look for yourselves. A world of endless opportunities. Feeling hungry? Go get something to eat. Books and stationeries, games, and much more. Portmore, the island's beat.
So your car break down.
Oh, no, not again.
And you're worried paying a wrecker could mean a pocket breakdown too. But when you're insured with Tatil, no stress.
Yes!
A Tatil motor policy has lots of benefits that protect your pocket, like free roadside assistance. That's free 24/7 every time, as many times as you need. Tatil, where people are people. A member of the Ansa McAl Group.
Jimmy's Holiday Resorts has 1, 2, and 3 bedroom, fully self-contained apartments located at the heart of Crown Point. Minutes walk to the popular beaches, restaurants, bars, and the airport. Enjoy our amazing amenities such as fully equipped apartments, complete with Wi-Fi, AC, TV, and a pool, and a mini-mart on the compound. Call 639-8292 or 8929. Jimmy's Holiday Resorts is your family's home away from home.
From the experts that created the Zinger sandwich comes the KFC Crispy Barbecue Zinger. Cheddar cheese, crispy onions, the most delicious Kentucky Fried Chicken, and barbecue sauce. Get ready for a whole new level of flavor.
Everybody only worrying.
Never ever worry, don't mind how things looking hard. I tell them never ever worry, if your life can't get damaged bad. I tell them never ever worry, what I'm saying is true. So just consider, Tatil is always right here for you. I tell them never ever worry, don't mind if life make you sad. I tell them never ever worry, if your house get flooded out real bad. I tell them never ever worry, what I'm saying is true. So just consider, Tatil is always right here for you. I tell them never ever worry, if sickness catch you off guard. I tell them never ever worry, if times fall on you real hard. I tell them never ever worry, what I'm saying is true. So just consider, Tatil will always be here for you.
Never worry about a thing. Tatil, where people are people. You know what I mean.
All right, and we're back to the final segment of For the Hour, and we're wrapping up our discussion here with the former Assistant Chief Fire Officer in the Trinidad and Tobago Fire Service, Mr. David Thomas. Mr. David Thomas, it's good that we have you here, because you alluded that the information that we want to get, we might not get it from anybody else. We gain it from the horse's mouth as not only the Assistant Chief Fire Officer, but you were also the project manager on with responsibility for the rehabilitation of the Scarborough Fire Station.
Yes.
Right. So, Mr. Thomas, and I want to quote you, in 2020, on 22nd of August 2022, which was over a year ago, you were quoted as saying that 98% of the Scarborough Fire Station was completed. And so the reopening will have been coming soon, pending painting, minor painting, electrical, and air conditioning works.
Yes.
All right. But we in today's the 19th of September 2023,
yes,
and we're still outstanding. We're still waiting on the reopening of the fire stations. Can you tell us what has gone wrong there?
Well, let me take this opportunity to pay respect and congratulations and gratitude to the fire officers in Tobago, the experts, the technical experts we had coming in from the Division of Infrastructure, the Army Reserves, right, and Corporate Tobago. It was a project that was built purely on benevolence and volunteerism.
Okay.
Right?
So no big $10 million contracts and all of that?
No, of course. We had some persons internal with some beautiful ideas, and we had some officers that were willing to put their shoulders to the wheel. And the Army Reserves gave us 4 men. And from time to time, when we would hit the hard areas, the general foreman and the administrator and even the secretary at the Division of Infrastructure would have made expertise available to us.
So even the THA
yes,
had
an input.
Had lend assistance.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. So it was all about benevolence and volunteerism.
Okay.
Right. I am hurt today because I really thought that I would have been walking with pride past Scarborough Fire Station at this stage. Because when I left, we had to install the air conditions. There were minor electrical works to be done. We had to install the air conditions because we sort of made it a brand new facility, which would require air conditioning to preserve the structure.
Okay.
Because we created greater space, we created additional storage, we created space that would cause even our IT section and all, some of the other sections to be comfortably housed.
Okay.
Right? And what was left was the air conditioning. I would hate to think that we would have opened back the facility without putting in a suppression system.
Okay.
And the rails. The rails have since been installed. The air conditioning, I was told, the units are all in Tobago.
Okay.
Right? We are yet to hear about the suppression system. And there is an additional facility to be done, which is critical to the health and safety of men, which is a kit room that would house all the fire kit for the men and all that.
Okay.
You would not want to open that facility without that being in place.
Okay.
But it's not out of reach. Right? Based on what it took for us to get to where we are now. Those other areas are really chicken feed. Yeah, really chicken feed. I cannot say I know for sure what the drawbacks are. But given what was achieved, right, I know that is achievable. In my world, that would be completed in a month or so. Right?
At the point at which you made the statement, you was thinking
that
it would have been on a month time.
Yes,
Okay.
I thought that there was total buy-in because, I mean, everybody came to see what was done because the project took a beating because there was a school of thought somewhere that the initial funding, right, wasn't well utilized.
Okay.
But teams from the ministry came, the project management team from the ministry. There were visits from the chief fire officer and several other officials. And when they came and they saw what the small budget, right, was able to provide us with, because the budget, I'm telling you, let me leave the budget, but let me say the value of the project and the work that was done, right, was estimated at well over $4 million.
Okay.
And I would tell you that the initial budget was about 1/7 of that.
1/7?
Yes.
Okay.
Right?
1/7, okay.
Good? And I think based on the efforts and the passion and the commitment shown by fire officers in Tobago, well supported by the other entities that I mentioned, I think that project should have been valued enough to encourage the little $200,000 or $300,000 that would ensure completion and reoccupation of the station.
Okay.
I don't know what representation was made. I can't boast about that. But I can tell you as the project manager and the person who spearheaded, person who had the vision, person who knew exactly how the project should be run, how the project shaped and all that. I can say that a little passion, a little effort, a little value, right, would bring all that I mentioned into fruition. And Scarborough Fire Station will be back in the capital. We might be the only capital in the world that does not
That
have
have a fire
an
station, yeah.
emergency response in terms of a fire service.
So you said that you would have retired over a year ago,
Yes.
right? So that statement would have been made around the same time.
Yes.
In terms of you handing over the project to someone for the completion in the fire service, I'm not sure if it's anybody, if that was done before you were gone or they were left that to be done after you would have retired.
Yeah, I expected that would have happened and should have happened. But I guess based on the changing of the guards and how that whole operation worked out and how it materialized, it didn't allow.
Right.
And that is why I remained very interested in the project. And I remained close enough that if there was a need for advice or whatever, I didn't want to invade space because, of course, I am viewed now as a civilian.
But most of the work was done already, though.
Yeah,
So,
you know.
yeah.
So I was available then. I'm still available now, and I know, based on what we can cope in terms of our networking, in terms of the willingness of external stakeholders, right, to assist us. I know that in 1 month's time, that facility could be up and running.
So from what I'm getting is that the project is missing the final coordination to just push it over the edge. If I'm wrong, you would.
Yeah.
But it's what happened generally is that when you went on to your new projects or you moved on in your career,
Yeah.
right? The necessary steps were not taken for someone to take over that project and complete it. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, for the most part,
Yeah.
right? You see, I do not know exactly what is the unwillingness, but I do know that everybody that know me well would know that is of little effort,
right,
to say to Mr. Thomas, look,
right,
we can do this together. And everybody know that the project for its entirety was based mostly on volunteerism,
right,
and benevolence.
Right.
So if it took us so far,
right,
you have the expertise, because there were other guys that worked on the project who went into retirement as well. And we would know that those guys left with some expertise.
Okay.
But we have all met, and in the interest of Tobago, in the interest of the civil defense that Tobago deserves, we are all willing, for no cost, no pay. It's about we are all willing to volunteer our time.
Okay.
To assist, because we still feel as if we are fire officers, we are career fire officers.
Right.
That passion still resides with us. And we too have a very keen interest in ensuring that Scarborough Fire Station returns to its glory days and we can adequately respond. Because everything about the fire service is based on response time.
Right.
Right?
Got you.
And your capital city deserves that.
True.
And we are all ready to assist, providing that we are welcome.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
So one of the things about the media is when the message is out, the relevant people can hear so that we can get the situation sorted out. Mr. David Thomas is here. He is willing to offer his services in order for us to get our fire station, the headquarters in Scarborough, up and running again. All right. So the relevant authorities, he's here. His phone is available. Ring it and let's get this done. All right. I will do my part as well. I would share it with the authorities as well. We want to thank you, Mr. Thomas, for coming on tonight and giving us this information about the fire station. Thank you, Tobago, for tuning in once again live with us in Tobago Updates Television Studios. My name is Edison Thomas, but until next week, I'll bid you adieu. Have a good night.